Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use.
Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. We hope you have had bright spots in your day and an opportunity to be of sincere service to others. Today we welcome Dr. Rene Minter, who is a prolific professional, philanthropist, author, and educator. She is a Christian Based Psychotherapist in New York City, New York. Dr. Minter is a strong supporter of people having access to mental health services despite their income. A featured writer for the Rebirth of the Total Woman magazine, she is also co-author in multiple anthologies, her latest being to the anthology Finally Free. Welcome, Dr. Minter.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holiday and happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes. So I want to know, Dr. Minter, how did you get on this road? We've been knowing each other for a little bit, and I know you've been all around the world doing some amazing things.
Well, it started probably about 3 or 4 years ago. As you know, you and I were involved in an anthology, Women Inspiring Nations. And up until that point, I had only done writing in academia. I had been a college professor for a couple of years. So most of my writing was really around teaching. But once I discovered that I actually had a story to tell, I realized that it was my obligation to tell that story and that my story might inspire someone else. So that led to the first anthology and the second and the third, and now we're in our fourth. And I don't know if I'll ever get around to writing my own book, but I certainly enjoy just giving little snippets of my life and hoping that inspires other people.
Yes, absolutely. And I know it will, because you're inspiration all around the world. So tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Okay, well, I am probably the one person who has diversified myself so many times that it just never, ever, ever stops. When I think that, I've fulfilled one obligation, it moves on to something else. So I started off in social work. I started off as a social worker, but I was always in the church. So I had to find a way that I could combine the spiritual side of myself with the worldly side of myself. So I always wanted to serve mankind. So from being out there in the trenches, working on social issues and social justice as a social worker, I realized that there was the mental health aspect that really wasn't being addressed. And that's what led me to go to graduate school to become a clinical social worker and later a board certified psychotherapist, but always keeping in mind my religious, my faith-based roots. So from becoming a psychotherapist, I realized that there was the need in the faith-based community. So from that, I became a faith-based psychotherapist. But there was one more piece in my life that really had not been completed. As a young child, I felt the call to ministry. At the age of 6, I recognized that was the direction that I needed to go in. And the Bible says to study to show yourself approved. So it meant that I needed to go back. So at the age of 57, I actually went back and went to seminary. So that led to a doctorate degree in ministry. So I'm telling you all out there, it's never, ever, ever too late. We have to remain teachable. We have to keep reinventing ourselves. And when we hit one dead end, there's always room for something else. So the ministry, the social work, the mental health, it all just somehow magically or God-sendingly came together. And with that, it just set a footpath internationally, teaching bishops and archbishops around the world about the importance of mental health. You know, the Bible says that we should be concerned not just about our spirit, but about our mind and about our bodies. So I'm an advocate for mental health. I'm an advocate for physical health. I'm an advocate for people just going to the next level and just being the best that God has called them to be.
Wow, that's a mighty calling. That is a mighty calling.
And I thank God for it.
We thank God for you because, I mean, we need to understand that mental health is just as important as physical health.
Yes,
they're all connected. It's all connected because if your mind is not healthy, then your body is not going to be healthy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are teaching, how do you go about it?
So when I'm teaching in the secular world or when I'm teaching in the faith-based community?
Both.
Okay, well, let's talk about the faith-based community because, you know, in the past, people believed that illness, whether it was physical, whether it was emotional, whether it was mental, people believed that was, that maybe you were doing something wrong in your life and that people didn't necessarily need to seek help from doctors, from practitioners. But we're learning now that God puts people in our paths and they train people in our paths. God created medicine. You know, God created the ability to treat people. So going into the churches and teaching those who formerly didn't believe that people could be healed through practitioners is something that it's a new mindset and it's a new way of recognizing God putting healing in the hands of his people. So having an open mind, having a receptive mind, and that's been very difficult when I travel into Africa. When I travel into particularly West Africa, where they may believe in other types of non-conventional medicine, it's been very, very difficult. But if you can get them to sit down and to listen to a woman where maybe in Africa, women are not as highly esteemed or it's seen as knowledgeable as men, but to be able to break those lines and to get people to understand that I come in peace, I come to teach, and that healing can be found if you would just take an opportunity to listen. So it started with one church, and then it went on to another, to another, to another, to another. And when I traveled down, and I'm so sorrowful about the coronavirus because it really has held up a lot of my missions work in Africa. But you know, we're still on social media and we're still teaching, but we just find new ways to do it. Now, certainly in the classroom, and I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I'm still able to teach day to day with the people that I run into. Mental health is important. So if it means that I'm talking right now, I'm working with drug addicts. So if I'm getting a drug addict to understand that your life matters, that you are important, that even if just for today, we don't use for today because we mean something today, then I've taught somebody something and I'm grateful for that lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a huge population to deal with, a difficult population when it comes to addiction because there's so many levels to addiction.
Yeah.
And to be able to get a person to really hear what you're saying, you kind of like have to get them at least halfway sober or halfway clean before they can really hear anything. So how do you approach that when you're dealing with someone? What population are you dealing with? Are you dealing with a population that's already in recovery, or are you dealing with people who are still on the street?
I am Let me just tell you that I am, as you mentioned earlier, I work in New York City. I work in Harlem. I'm on 124th Street. I'm in the hub of it. So I am working with people that are addicted to opiates. You know, I think the number one battle right now is opiates, it's heroin, and that's who I'm working with. So when I'm coming up out the subway, I'm coming up with the addicts, and they're talking, and they recognize me, they know who I am, and if it means that I've got to buy them a cup of coffee to get them to come in and talk, I'm going to buy them that cup of coffee. So they will sit and they will listen. And, you know, there's a whole technique about harm reduction. So if you're using a little bit less, you know, we're moving towards abstinence, and that's part of the process. So if you can get them, you meet them where they are. I learned that as a social worker 40 years ago. I meet them where they are. And I don't talk to them like I'm up here and I'm down there. We are all human beings. I am no greater and they are no less. So if you come to someone with humility, they will respect that. They know I'm a doctor, they know that, but they see me as one of their own. Yeah. And I'm grateful that I can be recognized that way.
And I know I'm familiar with the area. I am very familiar with the area that you're talking about. So you do have a hardcore population. And what's interesting is that from the history of Harlem used to be a beautiful, beautiful place at one time. And then drugs came in. And the drug that took Harlem out during the 1920s, 1930s was heroin. And now heroin is back and doing it all over again. So I need to ask you this, because I know when I left New York, they were just beginning to regentrify so much of that area, you know, people were buying into it. All the houses were, those beautiful brownstones were all marked up and getting ready to be sold to other people. How is Harlem now? How is it for, so to speak, the native population, or is there a greater diversity in population in Harlem with this problem?
Okay, it is, gentrification has definitely come into Harlem. On 124th Street, there are $1 million apartments next to tenements. So, you know, we still see that, but, you know, addiction knows no color. And it knows no class system. So the addicts that we used to see, you know, in the shooting galleries are out on the street, and people are coming in. As I see, you know, license plates coming in from Jersey and from Connecticut, they're coming in and they're buying. And it's not just people; it's people of all colors. So,
that was my question.
As Harlem has diversified, the addiction has also diversified.
Wow, that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that area as well. My auntie lived on 125th Street. She lived right across the street from the Apollo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, and what I want to say is I honor you, because I always say that churches need to come out of the doors and meet the people where they are. Because everybody that's in church, of course, they're healing too. But when you bring a message to the street, it is just so different. And when you're meeting people where they are, it is just so different than being behind those closed doors with people. I don't really know how to explain it, but I just honor you for doing this, for just meeting people where they are.
Well, can I say this, that when I went to seminary, there was a whole new track. And you'll see many, many people that are ministers who are actually in corporate settings. So there's a track called bivocational ministry. So that's where we learned how to serve God and serve mankind in the non-conventional places. So your sermon may be a sermon on a Tuesday afternoon with someone that has never stepped inside of a church, but it's still saving souls, it's still saving bodies, and it's still saving minds. So some of us do it in the church, and some of us do it in a non-conventional setting. So that's the whole bivocational ministry.
Mhm.
Yes. And so before we get any farther, because I'm so into what you're talking about, I just want people to be able to get in contact with you, and how do they do so?
Okay, well, I'm on Facebook, Dr. Rene Minter. I'm on Instagram under the same name. Um, I don't remember my Twitter account. I'm sorry, but I am on Twitter also under the same name. But you can also reach me via email, and that's rmintercar@msn.com. So you're welcome to contact me if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I just had my sister over, and there was a young lady with her, and we did ministry at my kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
just so powerful, you know, the the collaboration, the it was just beautiful. And I
Well, where
think,
two or more agree. Where two
yes,
or more agree.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the untraditional ways because it just it's just different. And I think it's more people absorb more when they're in a space that they feel really comfortable
Mm-hmm. I think with COVID, we talk about the horrible things, and COVID has been horrible, but I see it as we're in hibernation right now. But when we come out of this, we've discovered new ways to communicate. Who would have thought, I didn't know what Zoom was a year ago, but we have learned new ways of communicating. And hopefully, when we come out of hibernation and when the spring comes around again, that we will be better off and will be better equipped at the things that we were working on while we were in hibernation. And I have to see it that way. I have to believe that we're going to come out of this and we're going to be better.
in. Yes.
Well, this is indeed, and Ida and I have said this many times, this has been a time where many people have been all aflutter because they didn't know what to do, and just distraught. But really, if you calm down long enough, you realize that this is a very spiritual time.
Yes.
Because you have to pull back. You have to pull back. You have to pull out of the world. And you have to focus on who you are and what you can bring into the world. We simply do not have the luxury of feeling sorry for ourselves.
No.
And that's what so many people have gone to. They've gone to that, oh, poor me, and this is so terrible. And then on the other hand, there's so many who have done just the opposite. They're like, oh, okay, I have this time. Let me see what I can do with it. What can I create out of it? Ooh, who am I and what am I all about? And it's really a very exciting spiritual time. And especially if you have a God-centered personality, if you're God-centered, then you have something to draw on. And he's just working miracles every day. He's working miracles everywhere.
I would agree. I think that the whole COVID thing has really pushed us into purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It has given us opportunities that we might not have looked at before. I'd like to bring up one thing, and I said I was going to definitely mention this because I think it's something that people could benefit from. I call this time also a time of resting. The hibernation is a time that we're resting. And I've taken that and I've made like acronym out of it. So I take the word rest and I say that during this hibernation time, we should rely on God for restoration.
Mm-hmm.
That's the R. The E is establish time for faith, for the restoration, believing that God is going to restore us. And then the S is to stop worrying. God is in control. Stop worrying because it opposes our faith. And T, to trust God in the process. And that's really been my mantle, for this period. I'm resting. I'm assured that God is in control and that we're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something really important. You pulled on something. I have a mantra too, actually, and it's my strength is in staying calm and trusting in God. And
Yes.
I think once people can get to that point where they can take it out of their own hands and
Hmm.
and let go and say, okay, I can't do anything about COVID. It's just beyond my ability to do anything about
Exactly.
all the chaos in the world. I can't do anything. So
Hmm.
what is my relationship with God? That's what I have to work on. That's what I have to rely on. And out of that comes everything else. It's
Mm-hmm.
not
Amen.
coming out of
Amen.
me. And that's the change that I see happening, is that people are stopping saying, well, I do this and I'm doing this and it's da 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 da. People are beginning to let go and say, you know what? It's not about me. It's not
Exactly.
about me at all.
Yes.
And they're beginning to let go and say, okay, I don't know who, I don't know what maybe, but it's not me. So I'm willing to turn it over to a higher power, if you want to use
Amen.
that term. And I think that's so exciting. This is what we love about the conversations that we have, is that somehow or other, they always end up being spiritually based. So
Yes.
very, very frequently, it always comes back to that. So I thank you so much for bringing that tonight or today. It's just so important, and people so much need to hear it. They need to hear it over and over again, especially those who are quote unquote hard of hearing, who are
Yes.
still trying to do it themselves. It's not going to work. It's not about us.
No, it's
It's
not.
about God using us as tools, implements to accomplish his will in this world. And
Amen.
it's a beautiful thing when you start seeing people doing that. When you
Oh yeah.
start seeing someone just actually saying, okay, I'm letting go of this. Ooh, what do you want me to do, God?
And I'm
Amen.
telling you,
Amen.
it's a wonderful feeling. Every day, it's like, Lord, what we gonna do today?
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the
Exactly.
What's on your agenda? What's on
yeah,
your
exactly. And the minute you understand that, life is so much better. You have less to figure out
Hmm.
because your
Hmm.
steps are being guided. You
Mhm.
have really less to worry about because when God positions you or has something for you, He also has everything you need to get it done.
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your path.
Yeah, exactly. Everything you
Absolutely.
need, he has. If you ask him, he'll give it to you. If you're sincere, and you're willing to do the footwork. Now, it doesn't mean we get to sit down and do nothing,
Right.
but it means
No.
that we
No.
really have to do the work in earnest. It's
Yeah.
not about just sitting down and folding our hands and waiting. No, he's been working. He expects us to work, you
Right.
You know,
know,
I think
and he
I'm
works,
actually
comes along and works with us.
I
Yeah.
think I'm actually busier now than I was in my 20s. You know,
Yes.
I think that this is the time that I'm about to retire and all of that, but it seems like God had so much more for me to do than I did when maybe I was resting in my 20s so that I could be prepared for what
So
I'm
you could
doing
have some
now.
energy now. There you go.
I think
But
you're
Yes.
there's
right.
some truth to that. We all thought we were so busy and doing so much and going so many places, and we had all these plans, and we've seen a lot of those
Mhm.
plans go right down the tube, and we
Hmm.
sat around and wondered why. And now it seems that it is the mature generation
Yes.
that is
Yes.
stepping out and doing it, just doing it, just
Hmm.
bringing it to the
Yes.
table. And what they bring to the table, what we are bringing to the table, is sumptuous. It's a banquet.
Because we're seasoned.
Yes. I was going to
Yes.
We
say
are
that.
seasoned.
We have
Yeah.
Yes.
seasoned. We have opened our eyes. We have paid attention
Hmm.
to all of the trials and tribulations that we've already gone through, and we know who's in control.
Yeah.
We definitely know. We see it every day in our daily walk. You know, I know I'm a witness because things that has happened, I didn't know. I couldn't have done it if I tried. I couldn't have orchestrated it if I tried. The
Right.
way things has happened, you know, I would have never thought of that.
Hmm.
I would have never thought of it.
I think that's something that, again, in our conversations with different ones, Dr. Mentor, it's always amazing to hear how that exactly that happens. All of a sudden, you're going along and you think that you've got it all sewed up. It falls completely apart.
Hmm.
And then you're left there sitting there and going, okay, God, what?
Like, well,
And
what
then
next?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you start getting these pieces. They start falling into place, and you're like, okay, is this what you want? And then he gives you another little piece, and you realize, okay, I'm on a roll. I'm going in the right direction.
Yes.
He's
And
a
I
part
think
of it.
if you can remain teachable, and I
Yes.
learned that when I was a professor, I learned that yes, it was my job to impart wisdom, but it was also my job to take in and to learn. And at my age, I'm still learning. My grandchildren teach me things, so I recognize that I am a student in life, and that I am never too grand. Never. I can always remain teachable.
That's so important.
That is a piece of wisdom that I hope our listening audiences catch. Maybe write it down. That was a jewel. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, Miss Renee, it is always a blessing and an honor. And again, how do people get in contact with you?
Oh, okay. Again, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Dr. Rene Minter. I'm also available by email, rmintercar@msn.com. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to tell my story, and season's greetings to everyone.
Absolutely.
Be safe.
Thank you so much, and you will be back.
Oh, bless your heart. Bless your heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Be safe, Dr. Minter.
Thank you. Bye now.
Your business, through Just Minding My Business Media, has exposure on internet radio, major social media platforms, and now TV. Through Just Minding My Business, dynamic digital marketing platform. Don't listen to the word on the street. Hear it for yourself. Visit jmb.assistercircle.org to learn how you can take your business, your vision, to the next level. Voiceovers by RCH VoiceWorks, for when you want to be heard. Call 443-620-4115.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.